When you think of rugged reliability and off-road dominance, the Toyota Tacoma likely comes to mind as the gold standard. But these are new, different times, when even such household names are starting to show cracks in their armor, with massive recalls, build quality issues, and other things that could send the Tacoma's dominance into a tailspin. The Toyota Tacoma has a huge problem, and in this video, we're about to break down the massive issues threatening the most popular midsize truck on the market. Brake hoses. Another massive recall for Toyota. Many like to say that even Toyota isn't what it used to be in terms of durability and reliability, and this is yet another massive recall that supports such claims. Namely, last summer, dealers started reporting brake fluid leaks on brand new Tacoma trucks in certain configurations. Eventually, it ended up with a massive recall this month, which affected more than 106,000 trucks, all with 16-inch rear brakes and 17-inch wheels. It turned out that it was some sort of engineering mistake because the clearance between the rear brake hoses and the inside of the wheels was insufficient and allowed mud and dirt to accumulate during off-roading. After some time, this would end up with a buildup that can wear down the brake lines and cause leaks and loss of braking performance. Toyota reacted promptly and conducted a detailed investigation. It turned out that only the aforementioned variants were prone to these issues. On the other hand, models with 16-inch brakes and bigger 18-inch wheels turned out to be alright, while models with 17-inch brakes featured different brake systems, so they were never affected by any of these problems. Toyota issued a recall earlier this month for over 106,000 vehicles, but still, it estimates that only about 1% of these may actually develop this issue. The thing is that this isn't a traditional defect caused by faulty components, but rather, let's say, an engineering oversight. So the problem is more dependent on driving habits and environmental factors. In other words, some owners may never encounter this problem, while those who take their trucks off-road regularly could be at great risk. That's why Toyota took a proactive approach and recalled all trucks that could potentially be affected. So the Japanese automaker will notify owners in the near future, and all affected Tacomas will get rear hoses with improved designs that'll make them resistant to potential issues. Of course, the repair would be done free of charge, just like it did with thousands of engines in the case of the full-size Tundra and its huge problems with the new twin-turbo V6. Transmission issues. The current generation Tacoma has been around for a relatively short period, but it already encountered a couple of serious problems. Besides the massive brake hose recall, the truck's transmission also showed signs of vulnerability. It's not like the previous generation had a particularly great transmission. That old 6-speed unit had notorious gear hunting problems, but it was reliable at least. With the new 8-speed unit, problems are much more serious as owners reported symptoms like slipping gears, delayed shifting, and even complete transmission failure. It turned out that the cause of the problem was small metal shavings from the casting process, which contaminated transmission fluids, which then clogged solenoids and hindered proper gear engagement. Apparently, Toyota doesn't have impeccable control over the production process like it used to have. And even though the number of reported problems remained relatively small, this issue prompted discussions among potential buyers and current owners about the reliability of the new Tacoma, which usually end with the conclusion that not even Toyota is bulletproof anymore. Still, the good thing is that Toyota reacted promptly. It released a so-called technical service bulletin, providing guidelines for diagnosing and addressing faulty transmissions. It wasn't a classic recall, but Toyota replaced a solid number of transmissions along with torque converters. Still, many owners were left disappointed because only vehicles with a specific combo of diagnostic trouble codes were fixed. The prevalence of transmission failures remained relatively low compared to the total number of Tacoma units sold, but this issue raised questions about Toyota's reliability once again, considering that it's been a solid portion of issues lately coming from a company that you'd least expect, a company that enjoys the reputation of being the most reliable automaker in the world. In addition to transmission issues, we could also mention problems that the new Tacoma had and possibly still has with the front differential. Namely, several cases of failures have been reported under extreme off-road conditions, and all of them had a couple of things in common, starting from the fact that issues arose during low-range four-wheel drive operation with a rear diff locked and the multi-terrain select system set to rock crawl mode. After a detailed investigation, it turned out that torque loads exceed the differential's design limits by 1.7%, so Toyota now plans to release a software update to adjust traction control and torque distribution, all with the idea of reducing stress on the front differential. Build quality concerns. If you check the number of owners complaining about the new Tacoma, it's easy to conclude that the new generation isn't exactly at the level of its predecessor in terms of build quality. Various issues have been reported, starting from warped windshield cowls to poorly fitting plastic trim on the truck bed. What's particularly intriguing is that many people spotted these defects on brand new trucks at dealerships, raising concerns about Toyota's quality control and consistency in manufacturing. Yes, these problems may be of cosmetic nature and probably don't affect performance, but they clearly underline issues Toyota Toyota has in terms of quality control. Not to mention that buyers used to Toyota's level of quality now feel frustration as they expected much more. While most owners can get over the fact that the build quality just isn't as it used to be, many still feel frustrated with the fact that these flaws don't just affect the aesthetic side of the design, they also affect the overall comfort and ride quality. For example, it's not a small number of owners who have reported excessive wind noise and a high-pitched squeaking sound at highway speeds. It turns out that the sealing around the windshield, doors, and side mirrors is so bad that some drivers have already sought aftermarket solutions to reduce the noise. Finally, a decent number of owners complained about the interior and trim quality, citing issues like misaligned panels, rattling parts, and poorly fitted trim pieces, which are all a point of frustration for buyers who expected better attention to detail from a vehicle at this price point. Let's not forget that the last redesign brought a noticeable price increase. Sales still have to catch up. The Tacoma enjoys the status of the most popular midsize truck on the market by far. However, the new generation still isn't at the level of its predecessor. Last year started to slow due to some production and delivery issues, but even after stabilization in the second half of the year, the Tacoma still didn't manage to reach figures of the previous generation. It ended last year with nearly 193,000 units sold, compared to the almost 235,000 Tacoma trucks sold the year before. That is an 18% decrease when we look at year-over-year changes. But let's be completely honest and say that sales have improved late in the year. The last quarter of 2024 was 20% better compared to the same period of 2023. But the thing is that rivals are growing at a significantly faster speed, so the gap in sales figures doesn't seem as huge as it used to be. For example, GM with its Chevy Colorado and GMC Canyon models managed to improve sales by nearly 50%, and they sold 136,000 units in 2024 compared to their 2023 record of just 93,500. This year, the Tacoma has been doing well so far, but recent reports and recalls could once again compromise commercial success, which might lead us to the point where the Tacoma might not be the undisputed segment leader anymore. With the right set of circumstances, some rivals might get pretty close and close that gap almost entirely. New tariffs, new limiting factor. With the last redesign, Toyota didn't just bring the all-new Tacoma, it also moved the entire production to Mexico, all in order to cut production costs and ensure an even bigger profit margin on this popular truck. Because let's be honest, who would have thought that Trump's new protectionism measures would affect the entire automotive industry so heavily? Once the new tariffs come into power, the Tacoma, as a truck assembled in Mexico, would be subject to a 25% tariff on imports. Of course, this additional cost is going to be passed to consumers, which leads us to higher retail prices for the Tacoma. Some experts suggest that the new tariffs could raise the price of brand new cars by $3,000, and the Tacoma assembled in Mexico will be heavily affected for sure. Could this lead to a decline in demand for the Tacoma? Possibly. These tariffs could lead to a price hike that would then lead to a significant drop in sales, which could even force Toyota to bring production back to the US. In any case, interesting times are in front of us, and it'll be really interesting to see Toyota's response in the Tacoma's case, as we're talking about a major profit generator for Toyota in North America. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.